Hey there. One of my greatest fears as a US student of geopolitics is that my country just doesn't matter anymore. Maybe the flaming dumpster fire that the past 4 presidents have made of US foreign policy is for the best. Maybe the world is better off without a Washington, D.C. that's sane enough to exert itself effectively. Maybe my efforts to improve things are actually counterproductive. Well, whenever I start to feel that way, all I have to do is check in on the clown show in the Eastern Mediterranean to realize that there are still some parts of the world that seem to need us. At least 2 of the dozen or so entities involved here make serious claims to world or at least regional leadership. Well, if the EU and Turkey want to make the case that they are mature enough powers to do without US handholding, they are failing pretty miserably in the Eastern Mediterranean. At the heart of the current controversy, you can find Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. As with many issues facing his country, Erdogan is taking a very legitimate complaint that Turkey has and pursuing it in such an aggressive manner that he's making his country look like the bad guy. What's going on here is a conflict created by technological and legal innovation. Over the course of the 20th century, accelerating in the 1940s, the world's search for oil and gas has moved further and further out into the ocean. Most countries traditionally claim to control the sea 3 to 12 miles out from their shores. With the new technology, the old legal framework no longer functioned. Conflicts over oil and gas, and to a lesser degree fishing rights, threatened to escalate all over the world. The United Nations decided to address this issue, and in a near decade-long negotiation, produced the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. This convention came into effect in 1994 when the 60th country signed on. It provides for 200-mile exclusive economic zones. This carefully negotiated convention is actually kind of a triumph of diplomacy, and over 160 countries have since signed on. Turkey has not, because the new way of looking at things royally screws Turkey over. Greece was carved out of the Turkish Ottoman Empire by European great powers piece by piece over the course of over a century. The entire Ottoman navy was sunk on at least 2 occasions, and parts were outright stolen by the British right before World War I. So while the Turks repelled every attempt to take their traditional heartland in Anatolia, they lost almost every single island to Greece, including some that are just a mile or 2 offshore. This was infuriating back when each of these thousands of islands claimed 3 to 6 miles of surrounding sea. Now that they all claim 200 miles, it is completely unacceptable. This is not an Erdogan thing. This is a Turkey thing, and it is not something that they're going to back down on. What is an Erdogan thing is the extraordinary state of isolation that Turkey has managed to get itself into. Over the past decade, Erdogan has built up new enemies in Israel and Egypt to add to his country's traditional opponents in Greece and Cyprus. Turkey has a very legitimate complaint here. After 15 years of Erdogan's blustery insults, nobody gives a shit. Also, Erdogan's adoption of China's South China Sea tactics aren't really helping the situation either. Turkey's absurd isolation was formalized in 2019 with the setting up of the Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum to jointly discuss further development. This group cuts out Turkey, yet includes Italy and Jordan, countries with no plausible rights to the gas, and France is petitioning to join as well. Turkey's response to this has ratcheted up the ridiculousness. In November, Turkey and Libya signed a deal claiming to split parts of the Mediterranean up between them exclusively, which doesn't make much legal sense under the international law of any era. In retaliation, in January, the East Med Gas Forum started to move forward with plans to construct a pipeline that cuts out Turkey entirely and sends the gas to Europe. This is probably the most absurd aspect of a profoundly silly situation. Back in 2013's gas market, when folks started talking about this pipeline, it was kind of plausible. But the Europe of today is awash in cheap gas from Russia, the Middle East, and even the United States. The only viable market for these resources is nearby countries that want a source of gas for strategic purposes. And which normally high-growth country of 80 million people is the most desperate for nearby gas resources? Turkey. That's right, the Eastern Med Gas Forum, by cutting out Turkey this way, isn't just creating a political mess, they're also blocking their most viable market. This entire issue is the very definition of a clown show. Honestly, we shouldn't expect much more from Greece or Israel. These are small, hyper-nationalist countries with long-standing grudges against Turkey. We should, however, expect more from France, Turkey, and the European Union. These are large, ostensibly serious political units with pretensions to global leadership. The fact that they're engaging in military jockeying over gas resources that might not even be economically viable to produce is embarrassing. I think the chances of the East Mediterranean clown show degenerating into open conflict are low. This seems to be more about domestic politics than anything else. The promise of screwing Turkey out of Mediterranean gas riches has been a nice distraction for Greek politicians dealing with a decade-long depression. As Turkey's currency gets closer and closer to being worthless, Erdogan is grateful to have a cause that even his greatest political opponents in Turkey are happy to rally behind. French President Macron isn't above reaching for some of that old imperial glory to cover up for his striking early coronavirus failures. Every player here is thinking of domestic political rewards. And at the end of the day, all of these actors know that things aren't really going to get too serious. Mama Merkel is up there in Germany to make sure that things don't fall too far out of line. And if she fails, well, the U.S. Navy is always there to make sure things don't get too crazy. This is reassuring in a limited way, but it's also deeply disappointing to those of us that hope for a time when Team America doesn't have to do so much world policing. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. And if you want a free essay on a completely different topic, you can click here to sign up for my email newsletter. Thanks.